I'd like us to stand, and Kenny from our Secretary of State's office, if you will lead us in the pledge, please. Thank you, Kenny. And also would like to indicate that proper notice has been given as required under the Ohio Revised Code 121.22. On our agenda next is the approval of our board meeting minutes for March the 12th, 2021, and March the 31st, 2021. Everyone should have received a copy. Any discussion, any changes on the minutes as received? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the board meeting minutes from the March 12th and the March 31st, 2021 Board of Elections meetings.
Need a second? Second. Yeah, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries. Continuing on our agenda, we have approval of election equipment allocations for the May 4th, 2021 primary and special election. Ms. Poland, can you give us a brief discussion regarding that resolution?
Yes. So in your packet, you have a spreadsheet detailing the equipment allocation. The board approved this allocation, I believe it was back in February of this year. Per Secretary of State directive, you are to re-review that allocation within 30 days of Election Day with updated registration totals. So we have that. There's been no significant change in registration since February, so we're not recommending any changes, just for you to go ahead and approve the equipment allocation.
Okay, and this is for a primary election, May the 4th.
That's correct.
Thank you.
I'll move approval. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll move approval of the election equipment allocation recommendations from the staff.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries. Next is discussion and approval of the ballot and provisional envelope quantities for the May 4th, 2021 primary special election. Ms. Poland?
Yes, similar to the equipment allocation, the board had approved the ballot and provisional envelope quantities back in February. We've taken a look at those based on the new registration totals. Again, no significant change, so we're not recommending any changes to the ballot quantities or provisional envelopes. Just need approval.
Thank you.
I'll move approval of the ballot and provisional envelope quantities for the May 4th, 2021 primary and special election.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries. And next is a continuation of our report regarding demolished buildings and et cetera. So, Ms. Poland, can you update us on with this demolished building report?
Yes, we've received our annual report of demolished buildings from the Port Authority and also the City of Cincinnati. And Chuck Eckert, our registration administrator, is prepared to present the report to the board.
Thank you.
Good morning. You have two spreadsheets, demolished buildings Port Authority and also demolished buildings from the City of Cincinnati, along with two sets of photos, and they are marked accordingly, Port Authority and City of Cincinnati. We will begin with the demolished buildings Port Authority. We received the list from the Port Authority on March 17th. There were 22 properties on the list. We identified 6 voters at 4 of the properties on the list. On March 19th, letters were sent to the voters along with a registration form and a return envelope, and the letter also provided instructions for how to update their address online. To date, 4 have been returned as undeliverable. None were able, they had a forwarding address, and we have received no responses from the voters on this list. Also on April the 5th, staff conducted a site visit, and the photos from that site visit for all the properties are provided to you.
These look like there's nothing been there for quite some time.
The date of, that the properties were demolished is noted on the spreadsheet.
Have any of the voters attempted to vote?
Yes.
There is a column, Joe, on the spreadsheet, last vote.
Okay.
You will see that, I might point out that voter number 1 did vote in November of 2020, and according to the Port Authority, the property where they were registered was demolished in May of 2020.
So that person presumably voted from the wrong place improperly. But anyway, on the 6, on this list, based on the information that we have, I will move to challenge these, all 6 voters if they attempt to vote in the future.
Second.
Absolutely. Any more discussion? And I wholeheartedly agree. So, so we have a motion that's been made and second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries.
But does this board have any, staff have any thoughts on, I'll start with staff, on voter number 1 here, who seems to me plainly voted, well after the house was demolished. I know this occurs, but it shouldn't occur, but it does.
Perhaps we could mail a letter to the voter, send it forwardable. It may reach the voter, explaining the residency requirements in regards to voting.
Fine.
So with number 1, a letter was, but the person's not, but it has not been returned. Is that
Correct. So the voter may have, her mail may be able to be forwarded. She may have had a change, of address with the post office. So we might be able to reach the voter that way. The first letter, correct me if I'm wrong, Chuck, I believe just explained that we had received information that the home had been demolished.
And we encouraged them to update their residential address for voting purposes and gave them instructions as to how to do that. It did not explain in any depth the residency requirement for voting.
But at this moment, that individual is still showing as being registered to vote at that address.
Yes, ma'am. That is
Yes.
correct.
And that person voted,
He voted
yeah.
after.
6 months after the house was demolished,
House was
yeah.
demolished.
So that, it's not something I think we should just totally look away, but that's why I think a letter makes some sense, just to see if we can elicit some response, and then maybe just, again, I don't know what the pleasure of the board is, but my view is we should at least follow up on it. Because if that person moved out of state or something, they certainly, we have no idea where they went, so they did cast a ballot improperly, it would look to me, at least on its face here.
Yeah, I'm in support of a letter citing the reason why they can't vote from an address that's been demolished. They have to vote where they live and have a little strong tone to it.
Yeah. Good enough,
That seems to be the only one really in question.
yeah.
I support that as well.
Staff will send the letter.
Okay.
Okay, we will move on to the spreadsheet. Registered voters at City of Cincinnati, buildings demolished 2020. And again, you have a set of photos for each of those properties. We received the list from the City of Cincinnati on March 19th. There were 47 properties on the list. We identified 15 voters at 9 of the properties. On March 22nd, letters were sent to all. Again, a registration form and return envelope was included. We have received no responses from the voters. To date, 13 have been returned as undeliverable, and there were no forwarding orders on file for any. Additionally, on April the 5th, site visits were conducted by staff, and based on those site visits, you have the photos.
Looks like all but one of these voters was in an inactive status to begin with, and the last vote that was cast would have been in 2017, so, anyway,
There was no voting after the date of demolition.
right, yep.
Right.
So with these 15 voters, then I'll just move that we challenge their right to vote.
Second.
Any more discussion?
Challenge their right to vote from this address. to
That
be clear.
location.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Motion's been made and second. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? That motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And next on our agenda is a review of the November 2020 Presidential General Election Anomaly Report. Ms. Polar?
Yes, this was continued from, I believe the March 2nd meeting was the last time that the anomaly report was on your agenda. Per the board's instructions, staff mailed 19 voters' letters. This was the third letter that we have sent to these voters in an attempt to contact them. We sent also, per the board's instructions, a confirmation notice, so these were forwardable to the voters. We heard back from one voter, voter number 108, who indicated that she had cast a ballot by mail. It was not accepted by our board because she had failed to sign the ID envelope. The 11S form, so a letter was sent to the voter notifying the voter that she needed to sign the form in order to have her ballot counted. She did that and returned the form, but then she was worried that it wouldn't count, so she also went to her polling place and cast a provisional ballot. The provisional was not counted, the absentee was, so staff, Sally and I felt that was sufficient reason. As far as the other remaining 18 voters, we did receive word from one of the voters, voter number 102. Actually, this voter appeared on our February deceased Ohioans voters report. So she, this voter, the date of death was February 18th. We have not heard from the remaining voters. We do have some of the voters that have had activity from that address. Voter number 9, although the voter did not contact the director or deputy director per the letter, the voter did return the confirmation notice that was mailed to the voter confirming they're still at that address. Then we have voter number 21, same situation, did not contact or call the deputy director or I, but did return the confirmation notice confirming they are at that address. Then voter number 39, we have not had any contact from that voter, but the voter did have some sort of action with the Bureau of Motor Vehicle confirming they are still at that address that they're registered at. Then we have voter number 109, who also did not follow up with the board, but did recently sign a candidate's petition from the address that they are registered at. And we've had no communication or activity for the remaining. So basically, there's 17 voters that we still have not been able to reach in order to find out why they attempted to cast 2 ballots. All of these voters are voters who cast a ballot by mail and then appeared at their polling place on Election Day and voted provisionally. They all only had 1 ballot counted. But we feel that we've pretty much exhausted all resources in trying to reach these voters.
Well, since they made no attempt, you know, they've done other things but respond to us to tell us the reason why they explain why they try to vote twice. I think they should be challenged. So they show up at the polling place, you know, we can get some kind of resolution to the question.
That's not typically how we've done it. I hear what you're saying. I'm open to convincing on it. The thing is, we have, what got them got our attention in the first place is that they attempted to vote twice, not that there was any problem at their address, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so by challenging them, we potentially keep them from voting when all they haven't done is just react. I mean, I was thinking we submit them to the prosecutor's office just for additional investigation. That doesn't mean they get prosecuted, by the way. It just means that we've done what we do here, I think exhaustively, 3 letters, and they haven't responded as you suggested. I mean, if we just kind of gets them off our plate, and if they find something, which I doubt they will, they hardly ever do, but sometimes they do, but at least we've done our job and said, look, we've got 17 people that attempted to vote twice. I hear what you're saying on challenging them to vote. It's just, that may be, frankly, draconian, given the...
Well, I don't think it's draconian.
Well, I don't mean to be critical
I mean-
of I just mean it's, challenging the right of, it's not something we've ever done, but like I said, I'm open.
They still can vote. I mean, if they show up at that same address, they still have the opportunity to vote. They just have to fill out the form.
They have to
And
call.
then they can call the registration department and get direction of how to deal with it while the voter's in front of them. So if we challenge them, they get flagged as a challenged voter, they call the Board of Elections. Registration department says, okay, this is why we want them challenged, and then they can get a response to the letters that we've sent of why they attempted to vote twice. If they can respond to the poll worker right there on the spot, and the registration's on the phone, they can say, ask them these questions. You'll get a response at least, and they can still vote. We're not taking away their right to vote.
Have we done this before?
Not in this situation, not when, we've challenged voters like we just have on the demolished building report. Usually when we challenge voters, it's because we have reason to believe that they're not at the address they're registered at.
Right.
We actually, I think with the remaining 17, because we haven't received any of the letters, have not been returned as undeliverable, we actually have reason to believe they still are at the address they're registered at. They're just not responding to our request to speak with them regarding why they cast 2 ballots in the November election.
Joe, I'm not disagreeing so necessarily. I might in a minute. And Dave, I might ask you too, just what is our legal authority to challenge someone at the polls because they didn't cooperate with our investigation rather than not live where they live? That would be my concern, right? And so what if they say, I'm not going to speak to anybody and I'm asserting my Fifth Amendment right, I want to vote? Then what? I mean, that's the issue with challenging the right to vote, which I know it's a solution on these demolished buildings, but on something like this, it just seems to be a little different. Dave, I don't know if you want to chime in terms of what the law might tell us about our ability to challenge somebody based on their not cooperating with our investigation.
Well, frankly, what you're trying to determine here is whether or not a crime has been committed.
Right.
And in the past, the board has sent these things down when they've gotten a response to the prosecutor's office. We have prosecuted several cases over the years, but not many. Ordinarily, what happens is that once we get a call, we end up with an explanation such as what appears on your sheet. You almost always get a good explanation. Sometimes you don't. We've had situations where people clearly either cast a ballot twice, or we had one guy who said he was going to do it just to see if it could be done.
Right.
I mean,
That's true.
So that's what you're looking for here.
Yeah.
In terms of challenging the right to vote until they're convicted, I don't know that you can, if they're still living at the same address.
Yeah, that would be my only concern, is if we challenge the right to vote, like we do with these demolished buildings and other people who we know, may not live where they live, that seems to be, we're on some sound legal footing, but on this piece, I get a little worried, and anyway.
I can see your point, but me, if I'm a voter, I'd rather talk to the poll worker and explain the reason why I attempted to vote twice versus the prosecutor's office coming and knocking on my door with their badge, and it takes it to a whole different level.
Well, that's right, it does, and that's what the intent is. The bottom line is if you have somebody who actually voted twice, that's a crime. And what you're trying to determine is whether or not a crime has been committed. And if a crime hasn't been committed, they don't have anything to worry about.
See, I guess, when I look at this, especially voter number 109, has not, the letters were returned undeliverable from the United States Postal Service, and notice was given again, but yet they signed a petition on 3/30/21 from the same address. That, to me, indicates there's an issue there.
Well, and with that one, that kind of ties into what Mr. Mallory was talking about. I mean, you have here a situation where the guy may not actually be at the address that he's registered at, so a challenge might be appropriate. But he also voted twice.
Right,
So you need to find out what the extent of the problem is.
right. That one is a concern for me, because it seems pretty clear to me that something just doesn't feel right or there. And they've already voted twice, which appears to be illegally. They voted twice, and why? And yet they signed a petition with the same address.
I think what you need to do is get an answer to the question we've been trying to ask, and you've gotten no response.
Joe, again, I don't, maybe this is new, and I sense maybe the board staff is like, we've done what we're going to do. It's April from a November election. That's a perfectly appropriate place to be from an operations perspective. But we do have the authority to issue subpoenas off of this board, correct? I mean, I would frankly, I would rather send them to the prosecutor's office knowing that, you know, they're going to do what they do, and they rarely prosecute unless they've got a clear case of criminal conduct. And frankly, let them do what they do, which is to investigate the possibility of a crime. But I don't know, I mean,
So,
I don't know that I go along, but I'm asking, I mean, is it something where maybe we just issue subpoenas to the 17, and the subpoena maybe wakes them up more, and we bring them in here before we relinquish that control? I'm not saying I'm for that, but what do you think of that?
I'm just, you know, they're an extension of the Board of Elections. I mean, is there another way other than a challenge that we can, because we flag voters all the time, is there any other way other than a challenge that we can flag them and have the poll worker ask the questions that we need to have asked?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I appreciate the fine line you're trying to walk, Joe, but I'm concerned about putting our staff into an investigatory posture where they're asking questions of voters that could put the voter into admitting, you know, criminal conduct. And is our staff prepared and trained to handle that type of process? I don't know that it is. I mean, unless I'm told otherwise. I mean, I get your point about the prosecutor's office takes it to another level, but I agree with Mr. Stevenson that that's the point. I mean, we have attempted to communicate with these people multiple times. They have, for whatever reason, failed or refused to respond. The prosecutor's office has investigators who are trained to look into these matters. As Mr. Stevenson points out, it rarely results in a prosecution. Rather, it answers the question about why these 17, or however many it is, these people did what they did. So I'm, for a number of reasons, I would prefer that we turn it over to the prosecutor's office. You know, the issuing a subpoena, people show up here, most are unrepresented at the time. They're on the record at a public hearing answering questions which could put them into a situation where they're admitting guilt as well. So, you know, for all those reasons, I think that we should turn them over to the prosecutor's office, let their investigators look into this and report back to us. And I suspect we will hear that most of them made some type of mistake. But, I mean, at this point, we have 17 people that did vote twice. I mean, luckily, our system is such that all those were caught and only one vote was counted, but they did vote twice, and they can't do that. And I would leave it to the trained professionals to get to the bottom of that question as to why they did.
Well, my last point, when I was working here, we had situations like this, and we followed up, and staff went out and asked the same question. So we asked them, and they told us, and that was it. The bottom line is we want a response of why and then they explain it. When you ask them the question, they explain it to you. So a Democrat and a Republican would go out, we got 17 addresses or however we have, ask them the question, they respond, and we're satisfied.
so
We've done that.
I'm sorry.
has that been the practice in the past? Is that what you're saying?
No, we've done that.
No, but that's been done. We started with 120 people, right? And
I'm saying now that we're down to 17,
right. But
we have sent staff out before to that address, and we've talked to people. I'm not saying it necessarily has to be the prosecutor's office.
So, initially, let me just make sure I'm understanding this. We're down to 17 now, is that correct?
Correct.
We've sent numerous attempts to notify these individuals. What I hear Mr. Mallory saying in the past, we've sent our staff to the address and spoke with these individuals in the past. Have we already done that? Is that included in?
We have not sent staff, regarding this election, we have not sent staff, and I I think it's been a very, very long time since we've sent staff out. I don't know that we have on an anomaly report. It may have been on a challenge, but as far as somebody, I don't recall sending staff out to investigate someone who cast 2 ballots. I recall sending them out if they, we don't believe that they're at that address. I just don't recall.
Well, I recall, because I was one of the people that went out with Diane Goldsmith. We went downtown, and the woman said the reason why she voted twice, and her son said, "You can't vote twice." And she explained it, that she didn't want to, and it was an anomaly report because she voted twice.
So that was how many years ago?
Well, I mean, we did it, I'm saying. I don't know how many years ago.
I think Diane left in 2012.
I'm just saying it's another tool that could be used.
Do we have the staff to do that with? Or how, are there issues that we should be concerned around, especially with COVID? COVID is an issue that we should be concerned about. Should we be concerned? What about safety? I mean, times have changed. Do we have that ability to do that? And if we did, do we send staff out cold without, should we not have some kind of safety measure, supervision with those individuals? Number one, for COVID and for safety reasons?
Those are all concerns.
Yeah, I'll just speak up. I'm not in favor of that. I think we have, we put these voters in this funnel, so to speak, and most of them have come back with a reasonable excuse. We've exhausted every, I think, reasonable effort by an organization that does what we do, which is run elections, not investigate crime. And we have an opportunity here to, frankly, send them over to somebody to an office that investigates. Again, I'm not suggesting any one of these 17 people committed a crime, but they've ignored every one of our efforts to get to the bottom of it. And it's April, and this is from the November election, and, it's been 5 months. So I'm going to make a motion while I have the floor, and that is that we refer these 17 voters for further investigation to the county prosecutor's office so we can close the books on the anomalies from the 2020 election.
Second.
I'm concerned about COVID and everything else, and so I think it's the right thing to do is to send it to the prosecutor's office. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Anyone abstaining? That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other business?
Staff,
Colin or Sally?
we'd just like to give you an update on the election. It's May 4th election, going well so far. We've had 246 in-person voters since voting has begun. We have 1,863 requests by mail, and so far 63 of those have been returned. So it's a little bit difficult to scale down compared to 2020, but things are going well. We'll be ready for the May 4th election. Hoping that you maybe brought your calendars so we could discuss post-election meetings
I
and could get those scheduled.
I didn't bring my calendar.
Okay, I could circulate some dates in an email.
Yes, could you do that, please?
Sure. Just a reminder, our next meeting would be Monday, May 3rd at 8:30 a.m. And then you'll stand in recess and then reconvene on Tuesday, May 4th. We have you scheduled to come back at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, May 4th. Does that time work for the board?
Yes.
Well, I wondered if you guys have always been good about maybe letting me have half an extra hour to 6:30. I do court out in Harrison. I'd like to be able to do that if possible. Can we do it at 6:30? Is that a problem?
I don't have a problem.
I'm good with that.
Is that a problem for the board? Just give me that extra 30 minutes will let me travel.
Not for staff, no.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. And then you're going to send some additional dates out?
Yes, we're looking at May 17th and May 18th.
What times?
May 17th at 8:30 a.m. That's where you'll vote on the provisional verification and then absentee remakes. And then we'd like you to come back on May 18th at 8:30 a.m. To vote on any provisional remakes.
Okay.
Depending on how many provisionals, we may just have you sort of stick around for a half hour, recess, and then come back. We could
17th?
certify
On the 17th?
on the 18th.
Oh, on the 18th. Okay.
Right. If not, if we have a larger number of provisionals, then we might need to have you come back on the afternoon of the 18th to certify.
Okay.
So I guess right now, we're just asking you to, if you could, sort of hold your calendars for about an hour from 8:30 to 9:30 on May 18th, and then again at 2 PM on May 18th, if that works.
Okay, I can let you know when I get to my calendar.
Okay, and then I'll circulate those dates and times through email. 8:30, and then May 18th at 8:30, if you could hold 8:30 to 9:30, and then also hold at 2 PM on the 18th. But if we have a low number of provisionals, then we might be able to certify and get it all wrapped up in the morning of the 18th.
Okay.
Did you say a time to hold open on the afternoon of the 18th?
Yeah, 2 PM?
2, thank
If
you.
that works.
Just by the time I put them in here, I don't stay in. Anyway, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all I have, Sally?
You have nothing? Sorry. It's like when you're on a Zoom call and you're muted. It's okay, unmute yourself. Thank you. Any other, Secretary of State Kenny, do you have any updates for us?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kenny Henning with the Secretary's Office. I did want to thank Sally and Sherry for hosting, and the administrators for hosting Montgomery County here a couple weeks ago. They have a new director and deputy director, and their admin staff also came down, and they were able to tour the BOE here and then discuss processes and stuff as what happens down here. And they want to kind of replicate organizational charts, processes, etc., since they have a new leadership team. So thank you for that. The SOS Summer Conference is June 8th and 9th, and we are working to get more information in regards to sessions during that, etc. So we will hopefully have that here soon. And we're also going to know soon how many staff members outside of being a member or leadership can attend. So we'll get that to Sherry and Sally soon.
Is that going to be virtual or is it going to be in
It'll be
person?
in Columbus.
Oh, my goodness, okay.
That is in person, June 8th and 9th. And then on July 16th, it's a Friday, the OAEO regional meeting is happening up in Miami County. And I know that we'd love to have Sherry and whoever replaces Sally as deputy director attend that as our Southwest Ohio regional BOEs get together for like a mini retreat, if you will. And then finally, the secretary is hoping to visit here next Tuesday, April 20th, to check out the early vote center and meet with staff. So we're working to finalize those plans, and we'll get Sally and Sherry and you all board members more information once we get it finalized. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. And again, Sally and Shirley are going to be recognized on April, I don't have it in front of me, April 29th, virtual, what time?
4:30 PM, I believe it is, Sally?
I know.
Yes, we do have the invite.
And again, Secretary of State's going to be his keynote speaker as well, but we are so excited that you guys and our staff here are going to be recognized, because I think that was really great that you are so humble and recognize it can only be done as a team effort, and teamwork, as I say, what makes the dream work.
Correct. And you're correct. It's Thursday, April 29th at 4:30.
Okay.
And our staff is filming today at 11, staff members, so that we can run kind of a running show of all of our staff members while Sherry and I are on the presentation.
Fantastic. That is so.
We wanted everyone to be included, so we're taking a GoPro starting at 11 and just sort of going around the entire office to get everybody, to have all of our
Fantastic.
employees so they can be shown on video.
And everyone knew ahead of time so they could get dressed ready.
Yes. Did a dry run yesterday.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other business? Hearing none, I need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? This meeting is adjourned at approximately, it looks like 9:08. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you all.